Alrighty, returning from executive session. Next item on the agenda is discussion on negotiation committee under PMC 2.94. Does anybody feel the need for discussion on this tonight, or should we move it to next week's meeting?
My opinion.
Alright, let's get that on the agenda for next week. Next on the agenda, Resolution 2014-190, amendment to AHBL agreement.
AHBL is already working on a design for doing West Valley, and we've received some money to do the portion. They're doing the portion in King County now already, and we received money to do the portion in Pierce County, from County Line Road basically to Stewart Road. And instead of trying to find a new contractor to do this, it's cheaper to have them continue with what they're doing. And if you'd like to have him answer any questions, Sean Comfort from AHBL is here tonight to answer any questions.
So I'm not looking for this. I don't see the documentation yet. Am I missing it?
No, it's contract.
Right here.
I don't have it in my-
So there's about
The very last
40,
page.
there's about 40 pages, typical washout lag agreement.
Yeah, I got that, but I don't have it.
Just got the resolution.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we don't have to.
You don't have the lag agreement.
The West Valley contract amendment.
Yeah, but that's not the whole, there's a whole lag agreement that goes with it. I can make sure you guys get a copy definitely tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Jim's got a copy of it.
So what was the amount of the grant for the Pierce County side?
It's 100,000, yeah.
Because I see the budget impact here is $100,000, so it's basically just the grant.
The grant, yes.
Thanks, Tom.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So to clarify that the $100,000 grant, and there's also a match of 15, I believe, so the total amount was $115,000 would be the budget amount that we look at.
That's not.
And the agreement I provided to Jim Morgan, same format as the agreement some of you have seen on the first part of West Valley Standard leg cost plus agreement. So, yeah.
So the Pierce County goes all the way up, where your original contract stops and goes all the way to the Pierce County line then?
Yes, it goes all the way.
It goes all the way
to
to
Stewart Road.
Okay.
Well, now it will come from our northern city limits to Stewart Road.
Yes, that's correct.
What we have right now is from our northern city limits to the county line.
Right.
We have that already.
That's correct.
I want to be clear.
That's strictly for design.
Correct. This is for 60% design, and then after this design is done, the next phase would be right-of-way acquisition, and then the next phase would be construction documents / construction. You're only allowed to go to, you cannot acquire right-of-way and construction dollars at the same time. That's a new regulation, if you will, the state now has. So if we do have right-of-way acquisition, we'll have to acquire that first through essentially the grant funds, and then if there's no right-of-way acquisition, we'll be able to basically go to construction documents and construction, but as a phase, but not the right-of-way as the second phase. Okay.
Any further council discussion? Council pleasure?
Move forward.
Move that on to the agenda. And amendment to Robinson Noble Agreement, 2014-185.
The city has already acquired right of way in the
The agreement for
old
cleaning
right
up
of way
the
in Pierce County.
Kelly property on the corner of Valentine and Stewart, and they found an additional tank when they were doing the cleanup,
P.C.S.
and additional cost $25. 27. And we are, the city is actually, when this doesn't come out of any grant money, the city is more paying for this.
How was this missed? Or was it
It's just
a
an addition,
surprise?
it's a surprise, it was a surprise.
Well, because I thought that area had previously been reviewed over a decade plus ago,
Yeah.
you know?
That was all, when we took it from Pierce County, it
Yeah.
was supposed to have clean bill of health, if we had any additional things pop out of the ground, it was supposed to be all Pierce County's expense. That got so screwed up on that corner, I can't believe it, because
Yeah, it's pretty
the whole
surprising to find
clean
out.
bill of health was supposed to all be on Pierce County's shoulders. I harped on that and harped on it, and according to Ambom, whatever his name was, yes, we're totally covered. We have no exposure there. Now all we have is exposure.
There's no way we can go back on it because it's 10 years old.
I don't know,
We can
I don't know
look
where,
at this.
I don't know where to find
Find
it.
a contract.
I don't know where to find anything, but if we can find something, we will.
Even if Pierce County is financially liable for the cleanup, probably for the sake of the project, it would make sense for us to do it than go after them for compensation.
Correct,
rather
yes.
than delay it.
Otherwise it would delay Valentine.
Yeah.
I would say right now, the smart thing is to
Is that something we should bring up to the attorney to find out if it's even worth going after them to?
That's after the fact.
Well, I understand that. Because that's a big chunk of change.
Well, I would look for documents, I mean, I just wouldn't ignore it, I'd look for documents, because there's gotta be something, because, although I don't know, our representation wasn't very good.
Who would be the one we would ask to look for these documents? Would that be Ken? We've got to give it to somebody so it doesn't end up, well, I thought he was gonna do it, and I thought he was gonna do it.
Well, that's normal,
Yeah, the mayor.
Well, that's not okay, though.
that's not.
Yeah, it's up to the mayor to let it go, yeah.
I would say that's an administration decision, but I don't know, might even,
What's worth looking into for $28,000?
might even check with Albom or whatever his name was,
Oh, the attorney?
Yeah,
at the time.
I would suggest that this be a follow-up item for the Public Works Committee to look at later and not to leave it now. Just put it on the Public Works agenda so it doesn't get forgotten.
Sure.
Okay, well, that's on Josh's shoulders.
Shoved under another rug. Too many things get shoved under the rug.
Further council discussion? Council President?
Move forward, no delay.
Then we get to item D, staffing.
Yeah, now that we have got all of our positions in place, up in this roof, underneath this roof and everything else, at the time that this was all talked about and getting the city back in line and everything else, it was stated that we would get the police staffing back up to where it needs to be. And at this point right now, it is not done. We're without a sergeant and we're without one officer. So I think it's time that we get this police staffing back where it needs to be. Because I'm sure we are running at an exposure right now without a sergeant on a specific shift. I've been trying to check into that, but I have not had the time.
I may.
That's,
So I've had this conversation with our insurance, our MSA, and I've been looking into this insurance, and I've even had a conversation with Chief Calkins, and I have told him that I would like to see the lieutenant working a sergeant shift. I would not bust him down to sergeant, but we do not need that. The chief needs to be the supervisor on shift, and we do not need the chief and the lieutenant working the same shift. That the lieutenant needs to be acting as a supervisor, a sergeant, and working opposite shifts than the chief. We don't need that much supervision in our small little police department. I have talked to our insurance company, and I have talked to other jurisdictions, and that's totally within line with the size of our town and the population of our town.
I still think that we're understaffed at the police department at this point. This is nothing, nobody else has put this and wanted me to go to bat and negotiate this thing or anything else, but at the time that you were campaigning to be appointed, in your documents, or whatever, you were gonna bring the police department up to full staffing again.
And I had authorized 2 officers the very next day, after I became mayor.
So, I mean,
So I believe we are up to staff.
I don't believe we are. So that's just, I'm bringing it to the council for them to consider.
Is there like an overabundance of overtime occurring that would suggest that we don't have regular staffing covered?
I haven't gotten that far into it.
Well, in looking at, when I look at payroll every 2 weeks, I believe that a chief needs to be working in a supervisory role, and then if we had our lieutenant working as a sergeant role or a supervisor shift separate from the police chief, we would not have that overtime that we are looking at every week.
So, my question then would be, to the mayor, why isn't that happening?
Been working on it with the chief. He was supposed to bring me documentation proving to me how that cannot happen, and I have not seen it.
Did you give him a timeline?
We were having these conversations.
Can I ask Richard, how much we're paying in overtime of the police officers right now?
Well, I can tell you in the budget area, we're a little over 50%, but we're not at a line.
A little over 50% what?
For the year, we had budgeted 40,000, which is kind of low for overtime, and right now they're sitting at about, I can look at it, I think it's about a little bit less than 20, or a little bit over 20, I mean. So, and that was mostly due to the incident that happened early in the year when there was a shooting, where a lot of overtime was accrued on that. So we're not like we were last year. Last year they were getting up to, they had to get us staffing because they were down before Lamb became mayor. And so there was quite a bit of overtime last year. This year we're not seeing it so far, not as much.
Okay, so you're not seeing it in the payroll department that we're doing an
Correct.
unusual amount of overtime?
Right.
Our supervisory is what I'm looking at, rearranging that.
One more real quick for Richard. Is $20,000 in a good neighborhood to be over in overtime?
We're not that far over. I'm just saying we should be around 20 for the year, and we're about 25 or 26. So we're
7 months in.
Yeah, so we're getting in the 7th month. So yeah, we're not as bad as we have been. We could be better, and I'm working with John on that as well to try and see what the needs are, anticipate them. So sometimes you can't, like what happened with the shooting earlier in the year, you couldn't anticipate that. Without that, we'd be on budget right on.
And the officers are getting days off?
Yeah, they're still going by the regular schedule.
I don't understand, I mean, the sergeant's position is filled from within, why can't an officer be promoted? Why can't we have an internal test and promote someone to sergeant?
Well, my reason is I believe it's top heavy.
Well, one of the concerns I have is reflecting that John, first off, we keep referring to him as chief, and he's public safety director, he's a civilian. He's not a police officer. He cannot go on calls. He cannot go out on a supervisory role and tell, he's a supervisor overall of the department, but he is not like he's not an accredited police officer like a chief would be. So he can go out on a call, he can sit in the back, but he can't get involved in an incident. He can't arrest anybody. That's what the lieutenant or the sergeant can do when they are involved in a supervisory role. They can get involved in a police chase. He cannot. And you may even want to talk to AWC about that, because he is a civilian.
They have all the people.
Well, not only that, but we have been trying to get somebody to do some traffic control. We've never filled that traffic officer.
concern I have too is that, off-duty, when we talk off hours, you're only looking at one officer on a shift, on second shift, is that correct? Because I believe that's what we have. I mean, Friday night, in front of my house, was a perfect incident where we had Algona, one Pacific, and one Auburn on one traffic stop. Okay, that's right in front of my house at just midnight for at least 40 minutes. There's no other officers out in the city. We're down to one officer, situation. I know that was...
Supervisory role.
Huh?
Because of the sergeant role. So if we made that correction, made that fix, so the lieutenant now works the sergeant shift, then you would have backup.
And I do believe, and I know that the police would like to have talked to us about, several incidents about having another officer so they could utilize traffic situation. I kind of him and haw on that one, because it's part of their responsibility too, So, but I do think it's something that we could look at the budgetary issue. It was brought up before, I've brought it up before, with us staffing up, increasing on this side. So I don't like this side versus that side, but there's a road between, so I have to say this side, that side. But as a city, and we've staffed up a portion of the city, but we're looking at not attempting to staff up the portion on the other part of the city. And I think, if nothing else, let's take a look at the budget. I would like to see the budgetary issues associated with either having another officer and/or a sergeant also, a second sergeant, because we had at one time 2 sergeants. But I'd honestly like to understand what PWC has to say about John's position. Because I've held a strong position for a long time, all the way back to my civil service days, when I helped write the job description. So, anyway, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I think it probably should go to Public Safety Committee to get some further questions answered that I was not answering at this point and that were asked.
So what would you like done as public safety?
If you want something from me, I'll send you an email.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll send you an email of things some questions concerning Stacy.
Oh, I just asked if there was overtime that was occurring beyond standard work hours.
Why don't you all send me an email with your concerns and questions, and we will schedule another public safety meeting?
So what you probably need to do to not create any kind of form or anything like that is send them to Amy,
That's
and
fine.
Amy will correspond with you.
What's your name?
And you don't have email, so if you want to write it down, or,
He's on the committee.
I'm on the
oh, that's
committee.
right.
I'll bring my concerns in.
Will there be beer?
I can do that.
I think I need one. Okay.
Any further discussion on this issue tonight? All right, next on the agenda, bicycle contact.
Yes, I think we need to get more friendly with these bicycle people in town. On the 23rd, at about 5:30, 5:45, bicycle came down Milwaukee here. A little girl was crossing the street. She had her dog on one of these expanded leashes, and this bicycle came down, and I would say they're probably doing 30 maybe, and no attempt to stop or anything else. He was gonna ride between the girl and the dog, and then he realized there was a leash, and he turned and he went up on the sidewalk. Damn it, I wanted him to scream out on that phone booth, so I could just go and beat him over the head with my oxygen bottle. But he made it through that. My car was parked in front of my house. I ran over and jumped in my car and took off. He turned and went on Fourth Avenue, and he seen me coming on, and then he turned, and he took off on me, and I couldn't find him. So, I am so, you know, happy that I missed him. Turn around here on the following weekend, and I walk out, and here these bicycles are coming down the street, hell-bent for election, turning the corner here, and heading down this way, no stop, no nothing. They got numbers on their backs, so actually they were really, all the thing we had to do was arrest them and turn their shirt around. They already had their number. But, a car was backing out at the store over there, and so it stopped, trying to, the bicycles get by. Next thing I done, anyway, ended up with kind of a real traffic jam over there, and these bicycles going zip, zip, zip. I mean, if I had a tax strip, I'd have thrown it out. But so I'm going to take a 2x4 and run a bunch of spikes in it, and I'll slide it across the road.
So was the bike race?
They had a bike
It was
rally.
the Tour de Pierce, it's an annual bike ride put on by Pierce County, and it does not in any way relieve them of the requirement to obey traffic laws and stop signs. It's actually a very timely discussion, I think. Anybody who wants to drive on West Valley next weekend during Pacific days, it is the STP. There will be 10,000 people running the stop sign at Third and West Valley.
They're not required to stop?
They are. They don't.
Well, then why don't we get an officer out there?
Real make bank, we said it,
This is a
yeah.
question that's asked every year.
Well, this is my point right now, we need to enforce
We do,
this.
it's a safety
I mean,
issue.
that little girl could have got hurt real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm talking.
there's no question at all that bicycles are vehicles under the law. They are required to stop for crosswalks. They're required to avoid accidents. They're required to stop signs. Basically, same road, same rule.
I have to say that I have seen Messi, which I think is very funny to see a truck pull over a bicycle, but I have seen him do it, so I know that they are out there enforcing them.
On the helmets, he's been very aggressive on
Well,
riding
still,
around on helmets, but as far as these traffic infractions that they're doing, I think we need to be on a first name basis with these people as we do them tickets.
Well, they can make those bike riding.
So then we add that to the agenda for the next public safety committee meeting, so we brought up the public safety director to ask for more enforcement.
So you don't have bicycle officers, right? Do they have bikes?
They have bikes.
They do have bikes.
I saw them at the bike rodeo.
We don't have so much traffic. I'm not sure that even needs to go to public safety committee, or if that's something that the mayor could simply ask the department to take seriously enforcement on. One, this does remind me of another issue that's come up is I've a number of times encountered, especially kids riding the wrong way out on Ellington, trying to get to the library going the wrong way against traffic. Bikes are supposed to, by law, ride on the same side of traffic, not facing traffic. You're about 6 times the risk of getting killed if you ride facing traffic.
Why is that? You can see them coming.
You can see them coming, but you double the closing speed, and none of the drivers are looking for traffic coming down the road on the wrong side, so they turn into you. Getting rear-ended is a very rare type of accident for a bike, actually. The majority of bike accidents are a car passing, turning into you, or coming the other way and not seeing you, turning into you. They're intersection conflicts.
What is the rule on the city of kids riding their bike on the sidewalk as opposed to in the bike lane?
Not supposed to ride on sidewalk.
Right? I believe it is.
I think we only have that banned in the business zone here. I don't seem to recall that we have that citywide.
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is. I've never had an issue seeing the lights on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have an issue
Little
with it.
kids, but we got a lot of people who ride the street and get on the sidewalk. and
To avoid the
ride back to
lights
street.
and the,
Sure.
And they try to be pedestrians on the sidewalk, but Josh is right, a bicycle is considered a vehicle and they have to obey all traffic laws,
right.
to include signal their turns and
Sure.
everything else.
You see them at traffic lights where, in order to avoid the stopping at the light, they,
Take the crosswalk.
I'm bad about it.
It's free range right here. Drive on the left, drive on the right, run back, side.
There's more enforcement.
You know, the other thing I mentioned to Ken on wrong-way riding is there actually is a standard symbol for, not for a bike lane, but just for a general lane. It's got the bicycle with 2 chevrons over it rather than a bicycle with an arrow.
Oh, I've seen what the mayor of Seattle did all over that city.
Yeah, which
Blinding.
but one of the reasons that symbol was invented is to point out that you're supposed to be going with traffic, not against it. So that is something we could consider, at least on busier streets.
I strongly would recommend people to sit down with one bike, go to bike forward.
Really?
I would just, rather than try to look it up, just, if the mayor's willing to discuss it with Chief Calkins.
We will talk about it in the staff meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm not actually finding anything on sidewalks in code.
Have we had a lot of bicycle car collisions?
We have to find out.
We had one fatality, the one actually in Pacific, almost in Pacific, dropping down the hill on Stewart, 5 years ago. Young parametrics engineer still on the way to work. Other than that, I cannot recall any fatality bike car accidents within Pacific.
Now, are they required to have lights and reflectors and all that other?
Yes, anytime after, within the legal period of darkness, you have to have a white front light, then a red rear reflector.
You mean like a headlight light?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be bright enough to be visible, off the top of my head, it's either 300 or 500 feet ahead.
Okay.
Has to be white, not supposed to be blinking,
Oh,
supposed to be a
okay.
steady white light. In the back, you have to have a reflector, visible, I can't remember the distance, it has to be visible. You can add a rear light, but that doesn't replace a reflector, because if your batteries go dead, you still want to be seen.
Great.
You are required to signal turns.
Yeah, I figure you're probably the expert on this one.
Any further discussion on that?
Are you happy with that, Glenn?
Oh, yeah.
So, council, if I may, you notice these on your, in front of you?
Yeah.
These were made by Pastor Boss, my boss, from New Hope Lutheran Church, and this is a result of our fifth Monday conversation that took place Monday. Those that were present, we had talked about, he had asked that council would be willing to wear a pin, like ask me when you're around the community with our upcoming public hearing that we're gonna be having, the town hall meeting on July 16th, to just trying to help get the word out and educate our citizens on the stuff that council is looking at. And just to get council, for council members to be able to engage with, our residents and community about the marijuana issues that we'll be looking at and making decisions on. Did you want to add anything, Mark? I know we don't ask for public comments.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you.
meeting the other
And
day.
thank you very much for doing this and making this yourself. I appreciate that. So, Council Clerk, whether you want to wear anything.
And that's July 16th at 7 p.m.?
Correct, in the gym.
Great.
6:30?
And it's basically also to
7 now?
also get the information out that we're having this meeting. Bring your opinions, your questions, your worries.
One of the other things that came out of this meeting, if you go to Pacific Days, you'll see where there was a
Right.
conversation and discussion that took place, and Mark is gonna be providing me with the box. It's all gonna be wrapped in green, and I have bought the big white Post-it sticker things like we had for our council retreat. And I'll be sitting at Pacific Days all weekend with chairs around underneath my pop-up canopy and allow citizens to ask questions and make comments on here that we can get comments that way as well.
Those are for the people that are not wanting to publicly ask.
They can come too. It's either way. I mean, it's just kind of get the conversation going, getting all of our community, our neighbors and friends invited into the conversation. So I was going to do everything I could to get the information out there, and I thought this was a great idea, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other council discussion?
Rick's ready to go to a game.
That's our agenda, so we are done for the evening. Thank you.